Is waiting for marriage really worth it? And what if you regret it? In today's video, I'm going to be responding to a young man who put out a video on social media talking about why he regrets waiting for marriage.
A few people DM me and ask me for a longer version of why waiting till marriage was a mistake, so I'll explain. Also, if you're my mom or you know me in person, probably keep scrolling.
I'm going to address each one of his points, and I'm also going to point out the biggest lie that people believe regarding waiting for marriage. Before we jump in, as always, my name is Isaac David, and this is the Daily Disciple, where I help you follow Jesus daily. That's the mission and purpose of this channel. So if you enjoy the content, subscribe, because I'm putting out new content all the time. If you want to support what I'm doing here, this is kind of my full-time gig. If you want to help support this ministry and my family, you can join on Patreon down below. It'd be a tremendous blessing. Now, on to the video.
A few people DM me and ask me for a longer version of why waiting till marriage was a mistake, so I'll explain. Also, if you're my mom or you know me in person, probably keep scrolling. I know you're all nosy, so I'll just start with the big one. First was a physical incompatibility. We had messed around before marriage, but we had never had actual intimacy until marriage. There was an unexpected size difference that made intimacy uncomfortable or even painful on occasion for both of us.
If you hadn't realized already, this is kind of like a PG-13 plus video. So if you don't want to hear about sex and that kind of thing, if you're not ready for that, then turn this video off. You need to communicate. Sex within marriage, right, is a huge aspect of that is communication. What do you enjoy and what does your partner enjoy and what do they not? And when you're not really looking out for the other person and what they need and what they want, then it becomes a really disconnecting act. It just seems like there wasn't that piece of communication. And they just kind of saw this as a problem that they couldn't overcome.
There was also a libido inconsistency. I have a low to moderate libido. She had a high libido, so I would be happy with once a week. She wanted it more often than that and ended up causing some strife in our relationship as well.
I imagine people that are not married, they might really just take this in as like truth and this guy knows what he's saying, but trust me, this isn't how it works. When you talk about desire, like desire differences, is that present within marriage? Absolutely. A lot of couples experience this. This isn't like a new thing, and it's not something that's a red flag. All of a sudden, oh wow, you know, we have a difference of how much we desire. That's not that's not a deal breaker. Okay, that takes sacrifice. That takes looking out for the other person's needs above your own. That goes both ways, right? But that's not something that you can't overcome. And also the fact that seasons change. And that changes desire too, right? Like it's very well documented that throughout your life of both men and women, desire and libido changes and it shifts. So to have the expectation that I need to meet the person that has the exact same desire level as me, the exact same, like they want it exactly as much as me, Otherwise, it's just going to be disastrous. Like that's a ridiculous expectation, is setting you up for really disappointment, because when you get into marriage, a lot of things change and shift. And the question is, again, is this a marriage where you want to honor God in it and in so doing honor the other person, or are you looking to get, or are you looking to just fill your own needs?
Third was religious pressure. When we were dating, there were often times that she would push boundaries physically, obviously because there's a little bit of a libido difference, and then would blame me once we had done something for not stopping her, for not being the man and being a leader of God. This led to a lot of covert resentment that built up and came to a head in arguments after we got married, because she would say, oh, why don't you want it now? You always wanted it when we were dating, which isn't necessarily true.
Well, when you talk about setting those boundaries in the relationship, I do believe that's the man's role, right? I do believe we're supposed to be the leaders in the relationship. But at the same time, okay, you both make a mistake, you go further than you know you should have, and your partners, you know, they're blaming you. They're just like, hey, it's your fault. It's just your fault. If that's a consistent thing, right, then this is probably not somebody that you kind of want to be with. Like this seems like a toxic relationship. I mean, toxic purity culture is a real thing. People that go about talking about sex before marriage, like the thing that matters the most, right? Like, are you pure or are you not? And if you're not, then, you know, who could want you? And it gets really in a toxic environment, right? Virginity is idolized above all else. Now, I believe we're commanded to, honor God with our bodies, but people do make mistakes, and people make mistakes even before they're Christians. How do we treat those people? Well, with forgiveness, with welcoming them into the redemption and restoration that God offers. But if you're in a relationship where you both cross boundaries and you both know that, and the other person is just constantly like, you're the bad person and this is all your fault, I don't think that's a good environment for a relationship going forward into marriage.
And the fourth and most benign reason is that when you're married to someone, they're your forever roommate. And just like a roommate, sometimes there's incompatibility in sleeping schedule, how you sleep, when you wake up, what you do for organization, how you clean, when you eat, what you like to eat. There's a lot of friction that's possible there. It makes far more sense to live with someone before you're married to understand if you even are compatible as life partners. We split up after 6 months due to a completely separate issue, actually, but waiting until marriage definitely contributed to a lot of the issues that we'd had.
Honestly, this reminds me back when I went on a few dates with a girl when I was like 21 or something like that. And I really tried to convince myself that I enjoyed the things that she enjoyed, like whatever it was, just like random little things, foods or whatever. And I was like, I just really wanted to convince myself that I liked those things because I felt like that was what it needed to work out. Now, in the background, there were a lot of other issues that it wasn't going to work out, and we didn't align on a lot of other things. But it was those small things that I was like, well, I guess if, this is going to go anywhere, we have to align on these things. Now, that seems really childish because it's like, well, you don't have to both like this, this type of food, or you don't have to both like this activity. That's not a requirement. But at the same time, that's kind of how this guy is talking. He's like, well, you have different sleep schedules, and maybe you like different food, and and then I'm like, wait a minute, man. Like, I just think about Kezia and I, my wife, she has a completely different sleep schedule than me. I get up at 5 a.m. every morning and I start my work day. She gets up at 7:30 and she begins then. We go to bed at the same time, but at the same time, it's like we've figured this out over the short time we've been married, 1.5 years, but trying to navigate, okay, what's your preferences? She likes to take a nap on Sunday afternoon. That's her big thing. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to take a nap. So I've found different activities, whether it's reading or going for a walk that I can do. They're not deal breakers. They're not things that I needed to, oh my goodness, I should have known this. I wish we would have lived together so I would have known this. No, like, it's not that big a deal. I just think it's interesting. This guy, he's kind of taken on what I would consider to be a teenager mentality and how he's thinking about a relationship, where as an adult, a lot of those things you figure out once you're married, and those things shift and change based on time. Like, sure, maybe your sleep schedules are the same now, but when you have a baby, those things are going to change. What are you going to say to that? You're like, oh, well, I can't have this. This doesn't fit into my, my preferences. It's like, no, it's about sacrifice.
When you wait until marriage, you are flipping a coin on whether or not it's going to be successful. You're essentially going into a relationship, leaving 50 to 60% of that relationship completely up to chance. Also, many couples that do wait until marriage have sexual compatibility issues after marriage, specifically because of the guilt and shame that was built up around the act of physical intimacy. Anyway, long video, no one's going to watch it, but thought I would explain.
Okay, I'm going to cut right to it. This is the biggest lie that people believe about waiting for marriage. That if I wait for marriage, that the sex after marriage is going to be so good and so amazing, right? That's what everyone says, right? So it's going to be so amazing. And so it will be worth it because my relationship will be smooth and God will kind of give me the desires of my heart because I did my part. Now it's time for God to do his. Now, I've done a lot of reading on this from different Christian authors, and it's a pretty clear consensus that sex gets better the longer you get to know your partner's body and get to know them and are continually one with them, okay? So then having the expectation that you're going to get married right away and everything's going to be perfect is just ridiculous. Is it not going to be, is it going to be awesome? Yeah, for most people, I think it's going to be pretty awesome, even if everything isn't, smooth or whatever. Like, you're together in this way, and that means a lot. But to put these kind of high expectations on what your waiting for marriage God owes you because of that. You're setting yourself up for disappointment and failure. And this is kind of how it goes. It's, I'm going to be good. Okay. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be a good guy. I'm going to wait for marriage. I'm going to be pure. I'm going to be a nice guy. And because of that, God is pleased. Oh, God is happy. God's happy with me. And because of that, God's going to give me what I want. Yeah, and in this case, it's a good relationship, it's a good sex life, it's everything going smoothly, it's whatever else, right? No, God's going to give me what I want because I was a good guy. And what keeps going on? Well, I'm going to be good again to continue to get, what I want, because that's the mission, that's the purpose. And people use all sorts of things this way, right? They use these kind of idols of sex and marriage and waiting for sex as a kind of tool to barter with God, for God to kind of give us what we want. Okay, God, I'll do this for you. I'll be a nice guy, and you're gonna kind of give me what I want here. And often people will look to sex to fill parts of themselves. They think, okay, well, this will give me the satisfaction, the pleasure, the connection, like what I've been longing for, and they put all this weight on it. And so then when it happens within marriage and it's not filling every part of them, it's not making them a whole person, they're left feeling kind of like hard done by. It's like, like this guy, he regrets waiting for marriage. Why? Well, because there was some incompatibility in the physical realm. It's like, well, couldn't you communicate through that? Well, but our desire was different. Well, couldn't you communicate through that? Couldn't you sacrifice a little bit? Well, but it wasn't what I wanted. Oh, so this comes back again to, I feel hard done by because I didn't get what I wanted. I feel like this is unfair. But let's think about this in a new way. God loved me, okay? He loved me. He demonstrated that in coming to this earth, in dying on the cross to take the punishment for my sin. He loved me even when I was an enemy against him, rebelling against him. He loved me. I want to honor God. That's what this whole thing's about. It's like waiting for marriage isn't a tool to get you a better sex life or a better marriage or whatever else. Like people use that, or it's not a bartering technique to get what you want from God. I'm not going to just be a good guy so then I have something to hold over God's head. No. God has been so gracious and merciful, and he has loved me. And so now I want to honor him with my life. So if we go back and ask, so why should we wait for marriage? Well, it's because God has waited for us. Jesus waited for us. Even when we were sinning and rebelling and being promiscuous, God loved us and he waited for us. He was faithful even when we weren't faithful. And when you choose to wait to have sex with that person that you'll marry, or maybe you've made a mistake, but now you're committed to waiting for that person, you are imaging that same faithfulness that Jesus has showed us. Many people will reject this, like straight up. I don't want to wait, I don't care, all this kind of thing. But they put sex as their idol in their life, thinking that sex can somehow fill them, it can somehow make them whole. But it can't. Regardless of how many sexual experiences you have, regardless of how many people you sleep with or how many orgasms you have, it's not going to be enough for you. It's going to leave you empty and still wanting. Trust in Jesus because he is so, so much better. I hope you guys were blessed by this video, and until next time, God bless.